Letizia is a very gifted trance medium. They are in London, and we're going to be talking both about channeling, mediumship, trance channeling, and some really beautiful and loving and inspiring messages that the entity or the energies that Letizia channels has to offer to share with the world, to inspire us in our personal journey. So I'll be introducing them momentarily. These guests are really, really special. I've met them in person a number of times. They do a lot of traveling, and Letizia does trance mediumship sessions with the energy called Munjiji. You had been practicing as a psychotherapist for quite a number of years, and at a certain point you were working in hospice when you started to feel a body of energy around you. Would you tell us a little bit about how that happened?
Yes, certainly. I have been naturally a trance medium from my 20s for about 15 years. And then somehow my work and my work interest was so much in psychotherapy that I kind of closed the door, and maybe spirit just let me kind of rest and whatever. So I somehow didn't give any attention much. I was kind of naturally more perhaps intuitively working, but I wasn't working like we describe mediumistically or trance-wise, clearly. While I was working in the hospice, I was assisting people that were in coma state, a kind of vegetative state, where they can still hear you. So part of that work was speaking to them, knowing that they can hear you, receive you in some form. And while I was conducting my work and completed that, I felt that in fact I built a tremendous amount of energy all around me, and there were presences so distinct that I could not ignore them. Considering that I was in a busy ward, I was quite surprised. And it was there and then that a kind of an inner conversation ensued very, very fast. And what I mean by an inner conversation is like a mental, there is a phrase that flashes into your mind, and then you feel you're responding, and another phrase flashes into your mind, and it's not of your own thinking. So, and suddenly with this energy, a number of beings said, well, you have worked now for a number of years, you work with the young, you work with the old, would you mind to come back and work for us? And I said yes, and I was totally surprised, but there was nothing in me that even thought to consider no.
So the spirit offered you, essentially the spirit energies offered you a job.
Yeah, there and then. And for some reason, I have not even had the thought to say, well, hang on a minute, what that means, what it is, There was something said yes before me thinking it. And I got quite surprised, because my mind then catch up later on and thinking, what did I say? Yes, this is a big thing. So I said, well, how do you want me to work with you? Being quite practical. And they say, please go back into the trance, and we'll guide you. So that's how really it started again 8 years ago, and I followed their request. I sat down, and that state came back very, very quickly, which I was very surprised, because I have not done it for more than 20 years. Yeah.
So there are some really powerful messages. And do you prefer the term trance mediumship? What would be the verb that one would use? Would channel be the appropriate verb term?
You can use channel, or we say Munjiji communication, that's what I call it, but you can use whatever, I'm not particularly.
Okay, so with the communications, you've received some really powerful messages about the state of the world, of our human condition, and about both our outer conflicts, both with wars happening as well as inner conflicts. One of the YouTube interviews up on your website is about the inner war. And Munjiji very eloquently referenced that there is war going on all over the world, but that the real war is within yourself.
Yeah, definitely, yes. Of course, now I'm speaking from my memory, and so you have to pardon me. Of course, he's a lot more eloquent than I can be. But indeed, yes, it is such a polarized time. It is an exceptionally important time for the human family, and it's an exceptional time of awareness for what we are facing. And as there is so much conflict that we witness in the world outside, we need to also take into account, apart from the outer conflict, the wars, the difficulty, the great disparity between the levels of sustenance that people have, a way of life, there is also the understanding that there is an inner conflict. And that inner conflict is what is sometimes called an inner war. And that internal conflict, when we can pacify or bring some creative expression, it brings us closer to who we are truly. And so we are journeying more together towards what they call our luminosity, our light, our true essence. And so the inner conflict is approached by really taking some personal stock of where we can improve in ourselves. I noticed that always Munjiji is very encouraging for looking at what is valid in each one of us and encourage that area. I never heard them speaking in any punitive manner or really negative, discouraging way. There is an ongoing encouragement for also facing oneself, which is not always the easiest thing to do. But there is the encouragement to look at our qualities, but accepting that we have to correct sometime some of our more difficult aspects. And that's why one of his saying is, look not for perfection, but for enough balance. That's, I think, is a very important part as we look for a balance of what we can expect from where we are at, but not pretend to really deny some of the difficulties in ourselves. That balance comes a step closer, almost. And I think that balance is very important because it allows to understand others better rather than working towards being that perfect person, because that can be a very demanding journey and does not include all the contradiction that life brings along.
I love how you referred to the importance of really embracing and being present with the humanness and the struggle as well. To me, that aspect of our spiritual evolution is every bit as spiritual as our meditation or our channeling or our creative work or the things that really bring us a conscious awareness of our light. By embracing the emotional body, the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we don't always like to think about or acknowledge are there, that's how we really do return to the soul. We've talked privately about the importance of that emotional work, and all three of us on the line come from a background in psychotherapy, so we're trained and we've really worked with people in doing that heavy-duty emotional work, and the spiritual work is a way to bring it to the next level of vibration, but you really can't do one without the other. And to do the spiritual work, the channeling, the creative stuff without getting into the core of the emotional body and transforming your way through that, it's sort of like an attempt at a shortcut or a bypass. One can't exist without the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And recently Munjiji he was kind of internally talking to me, and he said, I believe in simplicity, they said, out of deep thinking and commitment to know yourself. And I love that simplicity, out of deep thinking and commitment to go deeper into yourself. And I like that he also said, I believe in simplicity, meaning something becomes very fluid and simple only when we dig deep, and not when we go kind of saying, this is all very beautiful and it's perfect, and it isn't, yeah?
Yes.
And I felt that was very profound because he said, yes, I believe in simplicity, born out of the depths of knowing who you are, not born out of pretending to tell a story that is not your story.
When we're pretending, we're not really tolerating ourselves. One of the Munjiji quotes, how much are you tolerating yourself? If you cannot tolerate yourself, how can you tolerate others? The less prejudice you have toward yourself, the less prejudice you will have toward others. And I think that applies not just with racial or societal prejudices, but also with judgments that we may have about other people, because it always comes from a place of judgment or imbalance or lack of acceptance within ourselves.
Yeah, completely, yeah.
Another one that I love, make a difference in your own life, and the consequence is you make a difference in other people's lives.
Exactly, yeah. It's so interdependent, so connected. We are really deeply connected to one another to a level I feel with my little mind. I don't fully understand. I have glimpses, yeah? And I have to make a kind of an effort to hold it. That's why he said the journey of the soul is not just for your own evolution, but it's for everybody. You know, how you affect yourself, you affect your environment, how you live with yourself, so it reflects in others. It's an ongoing mirroring and embracing. So it's a fascinating journey if we can have the courage to maintain and face up some of the things that may look very contradictory, but they are needed to be met, you know?
Right. One cannot exist without the other, absolutely.